All right, this is a meeting of the CSS Workforce New York Executive Committee, February 4th, 2021. Present on the board is Jack Wheeler, Tim Driscoll, Jim Griffin, Judy McKinney-Cherry, Ernie Hartman, Mike Mishuk. We do have quorum. Present from staff is Dan Porter, Phyllis Ballier, and Melissa Johnson. So Jack, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Conflict of interest disclosure. Again, if anything comes up during the course of the meeting that you or your organization have a conflict with, please note that and recuse yourself. Hearing none at the moment. Moving on to adoption or approval of the meeting minutes of January 14th.
So move, Jim Griffin.
Second, Ernie.
Motion second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, Dan, December 2020 budget.
Okay, December 2020 budget. I have it up on the screen. This represents expenditures through the end of December, which is 50% of the year through. Looking at our budget line items on total personnel, we're running about 45% on the salary line and about 24% on the fringe line. Those are actually, I'm pretty comfortable with those numbers. The 45 is real close to the 50. I'm getting feedback. Is that just me?
I hear the echo.
All right. I may have to take my headphones off then. This is better. Do you no?
No, still echo.
All right.
If you're not the rest of the folks, could you please mute yourself? It looks like most are.
See if that helps. There we go. That's better. All right. Sorry, my computer had technology problems. I was telling Melissa all morning that I don't know what if Microsoft pushed an update through or what. But anyways, we're 50% of the way through the year. So looking at the personnel line, in total, we're about 39%. We're 45 on the salaries and 24 on the fringe. I'm actually pretty pleased with those numbers where they stand on that. The 24 looks like we're way under budgeted on fringe, but a lot of that is timing. This is the end of December. So in January, you're going to see a marked jump up in that as things like the new healthcare stuff, the new HSA contributions and things like that kick in, the annual contribution to 401k and stuff. So you're going to see that bump up in January. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Under operating expenditures, I measured the space in the admin office, and we've reallocated those expenditures to the youth program. So you see a drop to about 70% obligated for the year on our rent, 45 on our utilities. If you remember last month, that was, I believe the rent was well over 100%. So you can see those coming back down to where they need to be. Professional services is right here. I'm going to need to follow up on where some of that went because I believe, well, I'm going to follow up on that because that seems a little bit low to me, but we're going to do a trace on that because that would be our audit and we just completed it. So either we haven't paid for it yet or that's an error, data entry error on the part of Patty. Staff training and development, staff travel is way down. We are going to come significantly down there. The beauty of technology is that I don't have to spend, and I will not spend anywhere near the $17,000 that we budgeted for travel. So that's okay because that'll be a savings that we'll use when we talk down in program areas. Dues membership, 101%. Somebody, one of our, all of our things for the year are in. Somebody's must have bumped up a little bit, but we're within a pretty good margin of error, I would think, on that. Outreach, we've got about 10 grand left on that, but we've got some outreach initiatives that we're working with, both in tandem with the I-86 workforce subgroup, as well as we have regional job fairs coming up as well. So I know we're going to spend off that 10 grand or pretty darn close to it. Supplies are still high, but again, that is, well, you can see we've moved some of it. We've begun moving some of it down into the COVID supplies, but there's still a fair amount. Boy, it's bouncing all over the place. Still a fair amount of supplies that we need to move down through. Equipment and maintenance. We've updated our server in Corning. We've replaced and fixed all of our equipment. One of the places, well, we may be under our expenditures right now on the travel. Trying to upgrade and keep our technology running has kind of put us a touch over budget there. So I may ask for a modest bump up on that as the year progresses. Insurances is a timing issue. GMS service, we're looking like we actually might be a little over budgeted there. Special projects, we're in pretty good shape on that, and payroll service, we're in pretty good shape on that. So all in all, 50% of the way through the year within this category, we're settled in about 40%. And I think all in all, other than some minor changes and shifting around equipment and maintenance, I think we're going to come in well within budget within that category. Down in our one-stop expenses, we're including our rent and stuff, we're 34 obligations and whatnot, we're 34% through the expended and obligated at a 50% point of the year. We are going to come under budget here. I mean, noticeably under budget here. So when we get a better handle on this, I told Patty that we're far enough along the year, we actually need to take a deep dive on these and start pulling these dollars out as well and moving them down to the program expenditures line. Program expenditures is where the bulk of the direct money flowing to customers, either in training or supportive services, occurs. So whenever we see surplus funds in one of the other subcategories, we always try and push it down into this line. Youth operator training, NIATEP is coming up. So you'll see expenditures on that line. Work experiences, you can see how they're trailing out. Our youth program has spent and or kind of is projecting to spend about $140,000 so far on work experiences. So these are direct wages of young people who are reattaching to the workforce. And we're getting good results in terms of placements from these young people as well. I will tell you that we are targeting a couple of areas now to expand our work experiences where we've got a little bit of a light footprint. Actually, the Hornell market, Jim, I'm going to be kind of having some follow-up conversations with you in the near future, because we have some partners out there that we want to test fly an idea on, because we've not gotten a lot of work experience money into the Western Steuben region.
Right.
Looking at the contracted services, that's the obligation of the operator thing. We're projecting about 100% by the end of the year. Training and OJTs, you can see we budgeted about $200,000 beginning of the year. At this point, we've obligated, if they all go to term, about 167,000 there. So we're actually pretty pleased with how that's playing out. Targeted occupational training, that 50,000 is going down into the ITA line for Ernie and his group to work with. Supportive services, I mentioned, I think at the last meeting, we're actually doing a much better job of getting supportive services and helping to address the barriers of our trainees. So I'm pretty pleased. I've never seen that level of expenditure on that line. I think I mentioned that before. That's bumper for us. We're still not pushing out a lot of mileage, but that doesn't surprise me, because just like we're not doing a lot of traveling back and forth to training, a lot of the trainings are being done virtually. So I think a goodly chunk of that 10 will be also moved down into the ITA line as well. So we'd originally budgeted about 85 for tuition. If everything goes to term, we're planning on about $98,000 of expenditures, which looks like it's over, but remember the 50 is coming down, so we're actually 135. We're going to pull some from mileage, and we'll be grabbing some of these one-stop expenses as well. So bottom line, in the ITA line in particular, we are well placed for our kind of the spring expenditures. So usually you get a big expenditure hump in the August, September, October timeframe, kind of as the semester or the new academic years kick off. And then you see another bump, not as big as the fall bump, but you see another bump for the spring coursework as well. So that represents work that Ernie's group will be doing. And just to give reference, Judy, in yesterday's meeting, we talked about the dates of the RFPs and aligning with the end of the year. As you can see here, us being able to show that we're nearly 100% obligated on here is a good thing, because that keeps the Department of Labor off our backs. They're not always hounding us on, are you going to spend that money? Are you going to spend that money? Because it's technically obligated. So that's the benefit I was talking about in terms of that work, that group's work. Sorry to circle back, everybody, but there was a point we had in a meeting yesterday. So all in all, 50% of the way through the year, totally obligating. Again, these are monies that are not spent yet, about 66%. I'm actually quite pleased with that. We are going to be moving through final throws. Patty has a meeting set up, and we will be plugging in the youth, the work experience, or the emerging workforce program. We're going to be tweaking some of their expenditure goals, their monthly expenditure goals, now that we're 6 months in here, to make sure they spend off those dollars. We still have plenty of money left in adult and dislocated worker, although in the adult stream, we've kind of transitioned to the 2020 money, which is a good thing. That's minutia, but we are progressing towards our 80% goal pretty well. As long as the youth can continue on theirs, and we can redirect some of these other expenditure funds down into the ITA and the OJT lines where we can spend them off. So questions, comments, concerns, that's the end of my portion.
Questions for Dan?
Nope, this looks like we're right on track for where we are this year. So where we are in our year. So do you need a motion to accept this?
Yep.
All right, I make it.
I second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, ETPL updates.
ETPL updates. So there's nobody here from Corning, but so Corning Community College had a hiccup. They were in as an eligible training provider, had all their coursework in the system, and then something happened, and we couldn't get it cleared up. And so we engaged the folks in Albany, and the net result was that in order to resolve it, the help desk the help desk in Albany deleted Corning Community College like out of the system, like gone. So the Corning team has had to the Corning Community College team has had to expend quite a bit of effort to get all of their offerings back in the system. And Tim and his team will know that that's not an easy, it's a fairly painful experience. So the net result is that all of Corning's things are now in here, and they're all now looking as new offerings. They're not new offerings. The vast majority of them are the exact same thing we've already approved before. I can't, however, guarantee that in the typing and the updating that every single detail was exactly the same as it was in the last one. So what I suggested, whoops, I'm trying to find the. So what I'm suggesting and what I've suggested to Phyllis is that we just present all of the Corning Community College offerings and just reapprove them all for the system, so that moving forward, we're starting from basically where we were before the help desk helped us so much. So there's nothing scary in here. There's nothing worrisome. 90+% of this was already in and approved previously. There may be some minor tweaks, but as I've said in other meetings, the SUNY system, because it's a state system, there's very little, we can't really say no on it anyways. So staff suggestion that we just approve these as written, and we move forward and go from there.
Okay.
We need a motion?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right, so our business services contract written values report is next. This is a list of where all of our, this is the first part, the first table is the on-the-job trainings, our OJTs. You see a few more red ones in here now going through. So black means it's written, red means it was written, but it has either the person has left the job of their own volition, or they didn't quite make it through the training and their period. So we've got a few more reds appearing up here on the front end, which is a little bit disappointing. But you still see a good trend, and we are writing quite a few since the last meeting, I believe all of these here are new ones. So in the last month, we've written a bunch of them. EL Manufacturing continues to grow like crazy. Amextra is adding a nice group in there. So there are our biggies. We had already helped Finley's Tall Timbers get through their growth phase as well as Boss Security. So anyways, the good news, what I really like to see is this right here. DW1, that's dislocated worker funds. We like to see those. We don't like to see dislocated workers. I don't want anyone to give it that message, but I do like being able to spend off our dislocated worker pool on true dislocated workers instead of just transferring it into adult. So that is a good trend. I mean, you can see batches of them along the way. So that's good. Under our customized trainings here, you can see we've had a couple of reds, but don't be nervous because this one here was just, they had to reschedule because of COVID and everything. You see it reappear down here. So that's a net wash. So we've actually been pretty solid this year. We've only seen 2 of them not occur, which in this environment, I'm very, very pleased on. You can see the types of training we're in and the areas that we're doing it. Hardinge is really, and I just will say this, Hardinge is a superstar on our customized training. They've really taken to heart. So we offer to train an employer's staff so they can maximize their availability and minimize their workload on customized trainings. Hardinge really took us up on this offer. And so they basically have got a system down, and we've actually gone on site and Kelly's trained their staff so they can really churn through. So Hardinge at this point, I mean, they're doing regular ongoing sessions, not Hardinge, I'm sorry, Hilliard. Hilliard has really done it. Hardinge, we've gone in recently and begun training their staff. So we're starting to see Hardinge do what Hilliard did. I got my H's mixed up. I apologize. But we've actually gone on site.
This is
to
Joe.
help them do it.
Hey, Dan.
Yep.
This is Joe. So with Hardinge, is that some recent discussions you've had with them for that training? Because remember we had that conversation. Yep. They're going to be bringing back. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Very recent, since you and I just discussed on that. So yep. So the follow-up was that we've really gone on site and we've really helped them put together a system much like Hilliard where they can access it and it becomes a good return on investment, even at these $300 and $400 training levels. So the work is not hard on customized training. The key is really to have the right staff assigned to do it. So instead of having the VP of HR or HR director or whatever try and squeeze time out of her or his schedule, it's better to have a lower level staff person do that grunt work and then just present it to the folks for approval and review and signature. And if you do that and you get the right person in there and we train them, you can spit out these and they can regularly access these training funds and effectively double their training budget. So anyway, so that's my word to the wise. So anybody out here talking to businesses or that is a business, the key is you can go for the big ones, the 10 grands, the 35s, the 12s, the 4s, whatever. You can go for those amounts, but realistically, and this is just my skewed view, the real value, I think, is when you can really access it on an ongoing basis, because then you constantly replenishing your training budget. That's just mine. That's my shtick. So anyway, so bottom line at this point, you can see about 161 written. We've had a few that we either were quit, fired, canceled. We're actually the Paycheck Protection Program, because you're not allowed to double dip on federal funds. If somebody paid for time with Paycheck, the PPP program, we can't use that as a matching fund against WIOA. So you've seen a couple drop out along that way as well. So anyways, questions, comments? Otherwise, that is the report of where we're going. Yeah.
Questions for Dan? It's good to see a long list of activity.
Yep, I'm very pleased with that. Actually, I was, yes, very pleased.
Yeah.
So youth incentive policy update. This is actually the.
Hold on, Dan. Do you need approval? I don't think we did that yet, did we?
Yeah, you're right. We do need approval to present it as a report. Yep, please.
I move we accept the report.
Tim?
I'll second it.
Ernie, second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, youth incentive policy.
This is the bulk of why we're actually here today, because this is the meat of the most emergency thing we need to get done. So our emerging workforce program has long had an incentive policy in place. So we can offer some incentives to some of our young people who are in that program. And this is the body of the policy here. Where it really gets interesting or valuable, I guess, is really in the attachment A, which talks about the incentives themselves and how they would go about qualifying it. So what the emerging workforce team really wants to do is beef up their incentive policy. They're working with another partner in the area, and so that was kind of the impetus to really push them. But what I said was we need to do a wholesale look at what we're doing and what the incentives are, and are they valuable and tied to where they need to be. So they've basically rewritten policy attachment A. And really, there'll be incentive payments available for young people that are in the program. They have to be enrolled, they have to be active in the program. So they can either, while they're doing the work experience training, so while they're either out on site at the employer, so in addition to getting wages, we may incentivize certain key activities, or if they're in occupational skills training. So if they're going to a BOCES course or going to a CCC course or going through an Incubator Works entrepreneurship program or any other occupational skill training projects that we have out there, they're now going to be eligible to get some incentive awards. So what they've done is they've gone through, and I will tell you, they've really thought this through pretty well, is they've kind of created a bunch of different levels. So there's modest stuff, there's some little tchotchkes they can throw in there, but really they're probably, the young people are probably most interested in the $20 gift card. The level 2 is a 30, 40, 75, and for certain activities, it might be a $100 gift card. You may be asking why we use these locations. We are not allowed to do things like Amex or Visa or MasterCard gift cards. They have to actually be to a store. And that's a DOL rule, not our rule. So we are limited a little bit by places that can do gift cards. Additionally, we cannot do gift cards to places that are predominantly entertainment or whatever. So we couldn't do restaurants, we couldn't do movie theaters, we couldn't do any place where the Department of Labor auditor kind of visions, well, that's primarily entertainment or food. So we're kind of limited. When you put it all together, these are kind of the places that we're targeting now. Not to use target. So there are different key activities and outcomes, but this here is where we're at. So this is how you can see how these various levels will come to play. So if a young person is in the program and they're doing a work readiness initiative, if their total attendance is 80 to 89%, they can get a level 1, 90 a level 2. If they go to all of their courses, they can get a level 3 award. So that's kind of how you read it. If they've completed all of the required classwork, so their homework, if you will, as part of it, they could qualify for a second level 3. So what you see here is we've tied demonstrated objective demonstrated outcomes to the actual WIOA benchmarks in many cases, such as completion of a work readiness, measurable skill gains, degree or certificate attainment. We've tied all of these different things to those and have incentivized it. I got to be honest with you, the group has done they've done a nice work. This is probably about, goodness, Phyllis, I'm going to say 3 months on and off. Anyways, 3 months worth of work on this to kind of ferret it out. We've gone back and forth with the Department of Labor a couple of things. So I'm pretty pleased with what they're proposing as an incentive policy structure in the way it's tied. It is tied to performance. It's tied to demonstrated objective outcomes. There's really no subjectivity in here. It's been fully through multiple times through the DOL review process. So my recommendation would be to adopt this as the new attachment A to the existing policy. So the policy itself stays the same. It's down here we talk about the incentive benchmarks and attachment A. That's really where the meat of the change has occurred. So questions, confusion? Do you kind of understand what they're doing here? And I know this is big and I'm scrolling all over the place.
No, I think it makes sense. Any questions for Dan or staff? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion approved, Jim Griffin.
Second, Tim Driscoll.
Motion second. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
So the last item is the regional job fair. So it's regional job fair season, and usually by this week in February, we've already picked the dates and the locations. We've begun coordinating teams of people and whatnot up at the college. The reality is much like last year, we're probably not going to be having an in-person, we're not going to have an in-person regional job fair. I don't think we can control the cattle call with potentially hundreds of people congregating in one location. And I think it wouldn't be wise for us to even attempt that. So we're looking at virtual platforms. So New York State Department of Labor purchased a certain number of events on a virtual platform. There were 50 in total that the state purchased. They have held 2 test runs, one in Buffalo, Erie County, one up in the Finger Lakes. They've kind of done some learning from that. So we asked if we could get, 1 or 2 of these licenses, since they're already paid for and they're supposed to be for dislocated workers, if we could get them assigned. What we got back was initially that the governor's office was managing and deciding who got them and when and where, and his priorities and his preferences took place. And so they couldn't guarantee anything in terms of availability or times or numbers or if anything. The governor's office was in charge, but they certainly would take our information. They went and followed up on it. They meaning local and some of the other state business services folks within the Department of Labor itself. We were contacted back that we were given permission that we could possibly put in 1 or 2, and we might have access to the platforms, but the governor's office was still controlling ultimate use of these event slots. I wasn't able to attend that meeting. Phyllis was there. Kelly was there. I had a illness I was dealing with. And I don't want to speak for them, and Phyllis, tell me if I'm out on the left field here, but the feeling was that there was not really a whole lot of interest in allowing us to use them.
There wasn't a commitment.
What's that, Phyllis?
There wasn't a commitment. I mean, they couldn't commit to any events because it was up to the governor's discretion.
So because of that, what I would like to do and what we've kind of agreed to do is we think we want to just go ahead and do a regional job fair and procure using some of our own local resources an event on a virtual job site or a virtual job fair site. And that way we can kind of control and we can actually lock down and say we are definitely having a regional job fair and it's definitely going to be this day and whatnot. So another hiccup that not only could the governor's office not absolutely confirm our ability to use it, they would mandate how many employers and the actual process that everybody would go through to get there and all that fun stuff. And it just seemed like too many hurdles. So we're gonna try and move ahead with procuring a unless you guys tell me we don't want to do a job fair. That's kind of why I'm here. I mean, we've got a long-standing regional job fair. Last year's got canceled last minute because of the craziness. I guess my question to the court is, do you want us to fire up a regional job fair event and try and coordinate it? And 2, it will mean that we'll have to kind of do some budgetary stuff. And there's money up in the operating expenditure budget, so I'm not concerned about where we would get the money from. do we want to spend some money on that to do that? My own personal feeling is I think there's a lot of pent up demand out there on the part of, or a lot of job openings with employers, and I could see the employers wanting to jump on board with it. But I don't know where you as a board are kind of feeling on that. Do you want us to do this and pay for it, or no? The other thing I will add is that the college does have a little bit of money in Perkins, and they've offered to help support the procurement if it is too expensive to support some of the procurement of the actual platform itself to be used for this event. So please discuss, and I would love to know what your thoughts are.
I think you should go ahead with it, and I wonder about asking for support or from other organizations, sponsorships of the job fair. I mean, like the Hornell IDA could be a sponsor to help with some of the expenses of it. But I think you need to do that. I think you're right. It's a pent up demand out there.
Dan, do you have an idea of what this is going to look like?
Every platform has its own, distinct appearance, but it's basically it's a web page you would go to. You would register ahead of time. The employers would all have their little sub web pages. So if you think Zoom, the little breakout rooms, it's kind of that type of thing where if you click on XYZ employer, you go to their booth, which is really a sub site on there. And then that sub site, this is a general rule, and every company does it a little bit differently because it's proprietary. But as a general structure, they're all the same. There's a big floor, and there's little logos usually in each employer. You click on a logo that you're interested in, you would then go to their
room.
And then within their room, they would have access to put like their job postings. They could be live for interactions. So you could have an HR person chatting back and forth. You can submit resumes. And then you could bounce, when you're done there, you bounce out and click on someone else. It's a virtual job fair. Go ahead.
So when we have the in-person job fairs, don't the businesses pay for their booth?
Right.
So why couldn't we charge the interested businesses for their link on the virtual job fair?
So CSS has a long-standing tradition, and we are unique among most workforce boards. I will just say that on the front. We're unique in many ways, but one of the ways that we're unique is we've never charged for a job fair. With our name, if our name is on it and we're putting it on, we've never charged employers to attend. It's just a historical thing. Gotcha. I will tell you, most other areas do charge. The virtual one that went over in Tioga County a while back, I think it was $150 an employer or something like that. So the precedents out there, employers do pay for it. Really, for us, it's historical precedents of we've never charged for it. We've kind of offered that as a no-cost service to our employers.
No, I think it's a good idea, but do we have any idea what this is going to cost to put together?
We're in the process of looking at that right now. I'm trying to get quotes, but it's not going to be less than $5,000. And my thought would be that we don't choose a platform that's more than $10,000.
We can absorb that cost easily.
Well, if you remember in the budget line item, I think we've got some money up here in staff travel that we could designate down towards it. All
right.
And
we'll spend it up and take the bus.
I guess my thought, Dan, is I mean, can staff do some more work on this and then bring it back? I mean, really flesh out what the cost will be if CCC is willing to partner and bring it together. I mean, I personally think it's worth time investment, but I think it should probably come back to at least exec committee prior to, the full green light.
Yeah. Really, for me, do you want me to? Yes, and we would, because for procurement, anything above like 3,000, I'm going to want your backing to spend that kind of money anyways. So it's going to come back. I guess my question today is really around structure. Do we want to do a regional job fairs concurrence on that? understanding, that my thought is we really still need to, at least for one more year, go virtual on this. I really don't want to use, I take that back. I would love to use the already paid for one that the Department of Labor has, but being I cannot control dates and time, and my feeling is that we would put something together and then maybe not have that slot available because some other pressing need came up in Rockland County and the governor used the slot over there. It just feels way too unknown to count on that system. So I really, while I do want to use that for cost purposes, I don't want to use it because I want to be able to control my own destiny and not have that out there. And then we can search for other partners on that. Again, Jeannie's already said they've got money in their Perkins grant, and she's reached out a couple of times now that they are definitely ready to be willing to help chip in on that. Jim mentioned, possibly going on funding other partners. So I think financial impact could be minimal once we know details on it. But so can I move ahead with this? Do you want me to move ahead with this structure? Do you want me to say, if I can't get something locked down from the governor's office and get it for free, we don't do it? That's really what I'm looking for is guidance. And then we can come back at next month and have a more fleshed out plan from the group or for the group.
The dog is for it, so I'm with the dog.
The garbage man's out there. I apologize.
Yeah, I'd invest the time and energy into taking a look with that structure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that's nervous or anybody nervous or hesitating on it at all, or points that you want me to watch for?
I think we've always done the job fair. I think it's probably important to at least try to look into it to see if it can be done virtually. I know they're starting to happen around. Tioga did that one. Did that one turn out pretty reasonable, did they think?
Phyllis, I'll let you report on that.
They said they had about 45 of the people that signed up, about 45% participated. So.
What was the raw number? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I have it written somewhere, but I don't remember.
Can we go parallel route by continuing to try and get one of those slots from the state at the same time? I mean, if we set it up the way we want and the dates and everything, and then ask if they can support that, if they can, fine. If they can't, we go it on our own.
So I have a follow-up meeting at 2:00 today to do just that.
Okay.
And my game plan is, because I really do, and this is my naturally cheap tendency. I do want to spend someone else's money.
Right.
But I also have to do it in a way that I've been burned in the past when I don't have things locked down. Even when I've had things locked down with the state, sometimes they like to change their mind.
We all know that.
So I just don't want to have 100 employers agreeing on a date and showing up and all that fun stuff, and then have to pull the rug out from under them at the last minute or try and scurry and have them re-enter their information in a new platform because we lost our slot. That just feels scary to me is all. I burn our image in the community, I think. But I can. I mean, I've already got a 2:00 meeting for follow-up today on that, so that can be part of the plan that I kind of bring back next month as well, if you want.
Okay.
Dan, I don't want to beat this to death, so you don't have to answer this now. We can take it offline, but I'm just kind of curious if you've got some sense of what's happening around the country. We always seem so myopically focused on what's going on in New York, and we're not looking at what's going on. So it could be that around the country, no job fairs aren't working at all. I mean, that's my question. How much are we looking outside at communities that are like ours, that are in sort of Rust Belt states that have pockets of growth, like Cornell, but that the remainder of the area is sort of in stasis, right? Is there have you looked at what's happening, outside of this, outside of New York around job fairs, and what maybe best practices happen to be?
I haven't done any exploration on that, quite honestly. I mean, what we've done kind of, we do the meet the employer events and the other, type of things. And so this really would just be one more thing in our in our array of services. But I can try and do a little research on that as well and see. I mean, I could look around Pennsylvania or Michigan or maybe Ohio or someplace and see if I can. I know Michigan has a really organized state agency. I could probably ask them. They have a good counterpart to NIATEP, so I could maybe ask what they're doing.
Yeah. So I'm looking. I just did a quick search while we're doing this, and there's a whole bunch of them that are listed around the country. The closest one to us is actually February 26th in Central PA. It's a virtual tech career fair, and it's positions in Central PA. So again, to me, it's just a quick question to say, have you done this early? Have you done this before? Did you do this last year? Did it work? Otherwise we're spending a lot of time on something that maybe it's just not working anywhere. Okay. And then it's a question of, can we make it work here? So that we can take that offline.
Sure.
I just wanted to share that.
We do try, and through the state association, through NIATEP, I do try and get best practices, or at least state trends. I do try and stay on top of that. But I don't spend a huge amount of time like constantly surfing for best practices on that stuff. And this is an area where, quite honestly, I know that a lot of other areas are doing them, but I've not actually talked to them and said, do you feel it worked? So I can do some of that too. All right. So my takeaway from here is that I'll explore and try and get some information on whether or not other areas think it work. I'll continue the exploration to see if we can reasonably tie down and avoid the cost of a location, and then we'll try and procure a couple of different options in the $5,000 to $10,000 range for an event site, and then give you what that would look like in terms of dollars and functionality. And then we'll have a more of a, make a motion kind of action at our next meeting.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. That's all I have then. My thing today, Jack. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to put in.
Nothing on my end. Does anyone in the group have anything? Okay, if not, can we get a motion to adjourn, please?
Move it.
Motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you
All right.
later.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.